Hi, in this small tutorial I show you how to use this area for CW fuse, the spark settings. Here we have a fuse, and in the spark settings you can create or change the main settings for your fuse. First you see there is a sparks amount, so this is the amount of sparks that appear here at this position. So you can change the size, the amount here, and the amount of sparks appear then here. Then you have the sparks position. This is this value here. If you change it, you see the sparks are walking or moving along the curve of this fuse here. The fuse is a curve here, and the sparks are moving along this curve. And you can change the position here. If you want to change the start and the end position, for example, you want to swap them, then you go here into the curve, go into the edit mode and press the right mouse button. In the curve context menu, you go to switch direction, and then the start position moves from the end to the other or opposite side. And then you have, in this example, you have now the start position here at this position, and the end is here. But the position here, the value stays. So I show it to you again. You go into the edit mode and can swap the start and end position, but by switching the direction of your curve. The next option is the split degrees. It's one of the most important options for the sparks here. At the moment, by default, the sparks are straight away from the curve. They are showing along the curve and are showing away or straight. And the split degrees option splits the sparks around. And this here is a degree value, so it means at the moment you see the sparks are at 0, and if you split them around 45 degrees, then they became or moves in two directions or in all directions by 45 degrees. So if you want to have the sparks all around, you just need to add here a value of 180, and the sparks now going around and moves on the opposite direction. This you can also type in here a different value or 360 and so on. So the sparks are now here. The next one is the flicker per second. The flicker per second option is for the moving or the moves of the sparks. So when I move or I play the animation, then you see the sparks are flickering. And here you see the default value is 0. At the moment, what you here see is the motion speed of the flickers. But the flicker per direction means the sparks are changing their position. So this value here is meant as seconds. So at the moment, nothing flickers because there are 0 seconds. So what I do now is, or 0 flickers per second. So what I do now is I set it to 1, and now you see every second the flicker is flickering 1 time, so 1 flicker per second. So when I change it to 5, we have 5 flickers per second. So you see, if you, for example, type in 24, you will get 24 flickers per second. So in this way, you can adjust this value, for example, to your value or to your play speed or frame rate of your animation. So if you have 24 frames per second, you could type in here a 24 flickers per second, because more flickers would not make any sense if you have a slower animation, for example. So this value here is for the speed of the flickering. The next one is flicker motion. So I do it back to 0, and we see there is a motion inside of the flickers. This motion comes from the material that is added to the sparks here. So when I set it to 0, nothing happens. So the flickering can be still used. For example, you can set the flicker per second option and all looks fine. But additionally, you can change or add the motion of this flicker here of the sparks. So if you, for example, increase the speed, you see the motion is moving faster. When I set it to 1, it moves in this way here. And when I set it to 10, it became faster. So here in this option, you can control the motion speed of the material of the flickers here, of the sparks. Okay, I set it to, let's say, 5, and they are moving in this speed. Then we have another option, I set it to 0 here, that is called flicker material gaps. So what we see here is there are some gaps here, these elements in the flickers here, in the flickering. So when I move them here a bit, motion speed, and I play them, then you see there is a gap between every stream or every spark. These gaps can be controlled. So if you make them smaller, or the value will be higher, you see there are more gaps on this way here. And when we set them to 1, the gaps are longer, but the sparks or the streams are longer also. So here in this way, you can control, in this option, you can control the flicker material gaps, so the gaps inside the material. The last option we have here in the spark settings is aligned to curve. This can be seen very nicely if I stop the animation, if you change the degree again, let's say to 15 degrees. So this is our spark here, and you move the flicker material gaps. The align to curve can be seen here. When I switch it off, then you see our sparks are now aligned in the original or the origin position where we have them in the collection where they come from. So for example, when I change the position, then you see the position of the sparks stay. So this will be later interesting if we go to the rotation and size menu. Then you can see you can keep the position of your sparks like this here, or keep the rotation and move the sparks, still moving in the sparks. And the aligned to curve means this object, the sparks object, will be aligned to the curve and follows the curve direction. Okay, this is important because you can also use different sparks. So here in the sparks collection inside the custom settings, there can be used other spark objects. So the default objects are CW fuse sparks. These are these objects here. When I click and you can see them, these are the sparks. This is one of them, and there are some more. Okay, and if you want, you can change this collection here, and there you can then choose the align to curve option or not. So as you can see, the sparks are directing into the epsilon or it's the plus epsilon direction. And with this option, you align the content of this collection to the curve. These are the options for the spark settings.